There has seemingly been a lot of negative sentiment about Canada lately.
From the political drama to the cost of living and the housing crisis and more, the list seems to go on.
And sadly, that seems to have had an impact on many Canadians and how they feel about their country, which is kind of negative.
But you know what? It's always easier to be negative than it is to be positive because of a phenomenon called negativity bias, where our brains are naturally wired to pay more attention and remember negative experiences more readily than the positive ones.
I definitely have that. There is no denying that things are pretty tough right now. It's all over the news and social media, and I mean, I'm among the rage farmers out there who post a lot of it, and people are eating it up.
But what usually happens is that the most difficult or challenging moments in our lives or our careers often occur just before a positive change or a big improvement happens.
Yes, the old, it's always darkest before the dawn, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, we need perseverance through these tough times and that hope and grit and will to believe that better days are ahead.
It's easy to make a bear case for Canada right now and harp on the negative.
But here on the show, we don't just do the easy thing.
Did you know that Canada has the world's third largest oil reserves with over 170 billion recoverable barrels? Yet, that's just the beginning of its resource wealth history.
And with global data center power demand projected to increase by 165% by the year 2030, could Canada's abundant energy resources and cold climate make it the Silicon Valley of the AI era?
Beyond the clickbait headlines and housing markets, what emerging sectors in Canada are poised for explosive growth and things that most investors haven't even caught on to yet?
And what positive changes are we seeing in the housing sector that present major opportunities for investors and average Canadians alike?
Welcome back to the Canadian Real Estate Investor Podcast, where we will be diving deep into, for the first time ever, the bull case for Canada, a nation that is far more than just maple syrup, poutine, and hockey, even though we are damn good at it. From vast natural resources to cutting-edge technology, Canada presents a compelling investment landscape that deserves your attention.
And for savvy investors, the worse off the market is, the better the opportunities are to profit, and not just profit, but provide real and meaningful value. That's the essence of contrarian investing. Nathan Rothschild, a 19th century British financier and member of the famous, somewhat infamous Rothschild banking family, is credited with saying the famous quote, "The time to buy is when there's blood in the streets." And I believe, Dan, the second part of that quote is, even when it's your own blood.
We are going to cover today Canada's abundant natural resources, the opportunities they present, and look at how they impact the general economy, the labor market, and of course, real estate. We will also discuss technological innovation and AI data centers,
the changing housing and lending landscape, as well as immigration and population growth. So with all that being said, let's start where it seems natural, with the resources. Crude oil, I can help myself, natural gas, minerals, lumber, seafood, wind, water, you name it, and chances are we got it. After all, Canada is the second largest country in the world with an incredibly diverse array of landscapes and geologies from coast to coast to coast. Now, here in Canada, natural resources such as oil, potash, uranium, and wood are extracted to some of the world's most highest labor standards. Again, that's a super important piece. These extractive industries provide massive benefits to governments across the country through taxes and royalties and contracts, while also supporting millions of families through jobs and other associated economic opportunities.
The major projects inventory, probably the easiest way to look at this, provides a snapshot of key natural resource projects in Canada that are either currently or under construction or planned within the next 10 years. So 24 to 2034. The inventory includes major projects that increase, extend, or improve natural resource production in Canada. And as of 2024, there are 504 major projects under construction or planned over the next 10 years in Canada, which surprised me, to be honest with you. There's a lot.
Yeah, it's good.
This is in energy, forest, and mining sectors, which have combined potential value of up to $632 billion. Yes, that's more than $500 billion.
Wow. Okay, so you mentioned energy, forest, and mining sectors, Dan. Let's start with energy. Canada is viewed as a world leader when it comes to hydroelectricity, nuclear power, and hydrogen, and it's well positioned to benefit from not just domestic, but rising demand globally for all of those things. Currently, the energy sector here in Canada directly or indirectly supports 663,000 jobs and accounts for 10% of the Canadian economy. And as of 2024, there are 340 massive energy projects with a combined value of $500 billion.
Also over $500 billion.
Wow.
Mining, shall we? I'm big into mining guy, and actually, when
this isn't crypto Bitcoin mining, okay? This is like pickaxe and in the ground.
Minecraft. All the kids these days are playing Minecraft.
You know what it is.
It's interesting though because minerals were one of the things that were not super vulnerable to on the tariff side. Canada holds vast mineral reserves, and global and domestic demand continues to drive investments in areas such as electric vehicles, right? Critical minerals for electric vehicles, other green technologies, battery production, right? Lithium brine. The mining sector directly or indirectly provides about 711,000 jobs in Canada and about 5.9% of the Canadian economy in the 2024 inventory. There are about 138 mining projects with a combined value of $117 billion, so a tenth of a trillion.
Thank you for the constant trillion references, really helping me figure out how much money that really is. Forests are the next one that we're going to look at. 26 major projects with in the forestry industry with a combined value of $5.5 billion. Look, the forest sector is a very important contributor to Canada's economy. I mean, just look at a map of Canada. You'll notice one color specifically, and that is green. There are a lot of forests here in Canada. The sector directly or indirectly supports almost 367,000 people and accounts for 1.8% of the Canadian economy. Canada's forest sector traditionally produces things like lumber, which, it's pretty relevant to housing. Panels, pretty relevant to housing. Wood pulp, still pretty relevant to housing. And of course, paper products.
The next one there would be clean technology. Clean tech market presents opportunities to assist with transition to lower carbon economies, both domestically and abroad. 205,000 jobs and about 1.4% of the Canadian economy. 215 projects classified using clean tech for about 194 in potential investment. Would this include things like nuclear? Because I feel like that's a big number, and nuclear I think is in there, and nuclear. Like I'm of the opinion that nuclear is like the way of the future. Germany, I mean, if we're ever going to become like an advanced like spacefaring species, if you and I ever want to be able to sell property on Mars, I think we need nuclear power, right? Ontario really seems to be leading the charge with that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I believe you're right. I believe nuclear does fall under the clean tech space. And speaking of clean, let's not forget that Canada has some of the cleanest air in the world. Like truly, to go in there and take a breath of fresh air. I believe the saying "take a breath of fresh air" was invented by a Canadian when they realized how amazing the fresh air is here. Thanks to our seemingly low population per size of country, the huge expanses of forested land, the quality of air here in Canada is second to only Iceland. Okay, so next time you walk outside, no matter where you are in this beautiful country, if you're walking right now while listening to us, do me a favor and take a big, deep of fresh Canadian air in and enjoy it.
Don't we do like a big portion of like the carbon sequestration in the world because of our trees there?
Massive.
Yeah. We're going to talk about lakes. Did you do lakes?
Love to. No, you're a lake guy. I'm the air guy.
Okay. So Canada has more lakes than any other country in the world. According to recent measures, it holds more than 60% of the world's lakes. And I think almost a comparable percentage of the world's fresh water. Yeah. But don't worry, we will get back to water later on. But let's start with something that does not mix well with water.
Oh, okay. Oil, one of the most abundant natural resources found here in Canada, with recoverable reserves estimated at more than 173 billion barrels. The country is home to the third largest proven oil reserve in the world. Now, while the oil industry is active across the country, almost all of the actual production comes from provinces like Alberta, Saskatchewan, and then on the East Coast, Newfoundland and Labrador.
And Alberta is where most of the oil is produced in Canada, about 80% because of the oil sands. Saskatchewan has billions more barrels of reserves in the ground and is responsible for about 13% of Canada's oil production. Meanwhile, millions and billions of more barrels discovered and undiscovered are found north and east off the coast of Newfoundland and Labrador, which I recently learned actually from Nick, one of my second favorite Nick, actually, one of our students in realist.ca, who's a big investor in Newfoundland. Actually,
East Coast Nick, yeah.
He just did a really wicked off market deal out there. I'm going to invest in his next deal for sure. By the way, I'm like super bullish on Newfoundland. But he was saying, like, I guess because it's sea level or something, I don't know, something that transcends my intelligence level. They can charge a different price for it. Plus it's like already on the coast. So, you know, if we're trying to deal with these, issues of whether or not the US is going to be a good trading partner for said oil in the future, you're easier to ship it to other places, because it's already on the place where the ships are, the old ocean,
the water. Yes. Not a lake, but a larger body of water. Okay. So agreed, Dan, but let's go through a couple quick facts just to put the size of this industry into perspective here. Okay. Third largest in the world, 170 billion barrels of recoverable reserves. An additional 250 barrels could potentially be discovered with new technology. Canada produces over 4 million barrels a day, the fourth largest exporter, and almost all of that oil is sold to Big Bro down south. That is the United States of America, that buys more than 95% of our oil annually. And naturally, Dan, you're going to talk to me about another form of energy here. I'm setting you up here. Let's go.
Oh, like you said, naturally, like that was your pun again.
I mean,
you should have made a gas pun.
I was going to. I didn't want everyone to know you're a gassy.
Yeah, I'm a big gassy guy. People call me a gas man. Natural gas is something that I produce a lot of, but also something that Canada produces a lot of. Another natural resource found in abundance in Canada. The world's fifth largest producer and sixth largest exporter. It is estimated that there is 1,300 trillion. Is that? There's got to be a better number for that. Come on.
That's how much there is, man. 1,300 trillion cubic feet.
Quadrillion. Wouldn't that be a 1.3 quadrillion?
Yeah, it's like an unimaginable amount of football fields, right? Because that's when everyone likes the comparison.
Yeah. 1.3 quadrillion cubic feet of natural gas potential in the country. I think we kind of missed our shot on the LNG thing with Europe, personally, because of
we'll see. We can bring it back.
Policy. Let's say policy. We won't blame any individuals. You know, what do they say? We listen, but we don't judge. But there was some policy that prevented that from happening when Europe became a huge market of demand for LNG. Just saying, natural gas is produced in almost all provinces and territories. Most natural gas consumption comes from the Western Canadian Sedimentary Basin spanning BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, which together account for over 99% of Canada's total output. Natural gas provides roughly 1/3 of Canada's energy and meets about 1/10 of U.S. demand. Global LNG consumption is growing rapidly. BC's planned LNG export. LNG stands for, I think it's a liquefied
natural gas.
Liquefied natural gas. So that's gas that it's been liquefied, so you can ship it in like containers, right? So like kind of like a propane tank.
Yeah.
Those export projects could significantly boost Canadian prosperity if completed, because there is big global demand for gas for heating stuff.
Yeah, people need heat in the winters. We know that better than most here in Canada. Okay, again, couple quick facts to put the size of that industry into perspective. 5th largest natural gas producer in the world, 6th largest natural gas exporter in the world, and at current consumption levels, Canada could provide natural gas to consumers for the next 300 years.
To our own consumers, you mean?
To our own consumers, yes. So if you're not getting the point of this episode so far, and we are just going to hit you with another 10 amazing things, Canada has just a few things going for it. Dan, what is the next thing Canada is extraordinarily good at producing?